Hi, this is Jason Penn, and you're listening to Chasing Dreams with Aimee J.
Welcome to Chasing Dreams podcast with Aimee J. Aimee believes that realizing a life without regrets is achieved by taking chances, chasing your dreams, making moves, and overcoming your doubts. The Chasing Dreams podcast will help you overcome life's obstacles, believe in your potential, and inspire you to face your fears. And now here's the woman who is passionately pursuing her dreams, Aimee J.
Hey Dream Chasers, this is Aimee J, and thank you so much for tuning into episode 67 of Chasing Dreams. Today, you guys may have noticed a pattern with my episodes, or a good portion of them. I like to bring my friends on. I surround myself with good people. The people in my life are friends who I've known for pretty long time. I think the last 10 guests, if you look at it, a good portion of that are friends. This guest is no different. Jason Penn is a partner with the firm who has expertise in representing people injured by serious medical negligence. Jason has turned his previous experience as a medical malpractice defense lawyer at a leading defense firm into a successful practice for plaintiffs in medical malpractice litigation. He regularly litigates against physicians, hospitals, and nursing homes in cases involving birth injury and trauma, cerebral palsy, brain damage, cancer. I mean, that's a lot, guys. He's admitted in a number of courts. Exciting news, in 2015, he was named as Maryland's finest young professionals by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. The Maryland's finest are selected based on their exemplary leadership, activity in the community, and their demonstration of excellence in their profession or business. And he's my friend, so, he's classy as well. Jason, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you, Aimee, for having me. And I just want to note that this is episode number 67, and you said that you have your friends on a lot. That means there are like 66 other people that came to mind potentially before you called on me to join you on this awesome podcast. But I'll let bygones be bygones, and we'll do this, and we'll talk about chasing some dreams. That's,
you're always so giving. And yeah. I'm just going to go back to what usually I call you Penn, so I'm just going to go back to that. It was weird calling you Jason for a second. So, Penn, I love the selflessness of yours. I'm not even going to mention the fact that I asked you a while back, and it's been a bear to get a hold of you because you're just so busy.
You know what I'm busy doing? I'm busy chasing dreams, Aimee. That's what I'm doing right now. Or trying
to. And this is Penn. He's very good at the comebacks with that. But Penn, what is the name of your firm?
Sure. So I'm a partner at a law firm, Janet, Jenner, and Suggs. Mm-hmm. And it's a national practice where our main office is in Baltimore, where I am. We have offices in a couple of other locations, but generally speaking, what we do is we represent the little guy or the person who's been harmed by corporate greed or negligence or unsafe practice. And so that takes many different forms. That might be a hospital that's not caring for its patients correctly. That might be a manufacturer of a medical device that is unsafe and is harming people. So it takes many different forms, but that's always sort of the common driving force behind our work.
So would you say that is a dream you've had since you were young?
Yeah, it's a great story. And I thought about this a bunch over time, and then also obviously in anticipation of talking with you today. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to tell you that, as a 4-year-old boy, I imagined myself walking into a courtroom and putting down this sharp briefcase and standing up eloquently and advocating for my client who has been harmed by a company or a shady landlord or something like that. And that just isn't true. It isn't true at all.
You weren't channeling Perry Mason from back in the day?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I don't even know if I watched Perry Mason back then. But, I would say that what's interesting is it's something that evolves. And I don't know that I have had at that time as a kid or as an adolescent really a clear picture of what my dream looked like or what I wanted to do professionally. Sort of bit of background, and this because this is sort of how we met, but, at UMBC in a science major. And so that would lead you to sit and do research and microscope type stuff, or go to medical school. And I know it was getting closer to graduation, and I'm thinking MD, PhD, or med school or PhD, you really have to love the sciences to continue forward with this. And I'm going to co-sign that. Yeah, no. And so you got to be honest with yourself. And I was and knew, it was going to be a struggle for me, and probably not something I was going to want to do long term and make myself happy. So I took some good advice and some bad advice. It ultimately worked out, but the advice from people are things like, you like to talk a lot, you like to argue, you should be a lawyer. And I'm not really sure, sitting here now as a lawyer, that I would ever give that advice to someone who's considering law school. It's terrible advice, right? But I thought, all right, let me check into it and look into it and see what the prereqs are and what I have to do. And sort of on a whim a little bit, I applied. And it's funny because for me, as a black kid growing up, it was sort of like, I'll give you a simplification, but you're black, you're smart, you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor. You should be Cliff Huxtable or you should be Claire Huxtable. Pick one. I wasn't necessarily exposed to computer programmers and a variety and graphic illustrators and artists. It was sort of go to school, work really hard, get good grades, and the rest will take care of itself. So I didn't have a predefined dream as a kid. It was more do well and then success will come to you.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, you were saying good advice and bad advice, right? Do you think that you would have considered it if you never had that advice?
That's a great question. I don't know. In some ways, I think of fate and things as being fated. And so I don't know that maybe I wouldn't have applied and gone to law school that year or right away. But I do think that ultimately I would have ended up doing just what I'm doing now. Sometimes you never quite understand how these things come together, but they do. And so I think I would have gotten there, but I appreciate the advice and the confidence that whoever it was that gave it to me. Because when I got to law school, it was sort of party time was over. I was with a number of other students who were older, who for them, this was their second career. They had a spouse at home that was covering the mortgage while they were in school, and it was serious business for them. And so that atmosphere sort of woke me up, and it was go time. And it was something new and exciting and different for me. It was a different way of thinking. And I'll tell you, I really enjoyed it. As much as one can enjoy law school, I did. It's a lot of work. It's hard work, all of that. I'm not, there's very few things that are rewarding in life I have found that are easy and don't require work.
I like how you worded that, though, because it's true.
Yeah. And I can only tell you from my experience that's been true, and I've heard that. And then as you go through it, you go, yeah, this was a bunch of work. I mean, when you look back on it, you're like, this was a bunch of work, a lot of stress, some tears, some prayers, some late nights, some early mornings, a whole bunch of those. But you make it through, and so, we're talking about being a lawyer, right? But obviously your podcast is about something bigger. And what I've seen is that the struggle is the same. The requirements for whatever your dream is, or whatever undertaking it is the same. It's a lot of discipline, a lot of hard work, and support from others, and a little bit of faith in yourself, and sweat and tears. And that gets you where you got to go. So it's, for me, my profession is to be a lawyer. That was one of my goals, one of my dreams. I have others. And so I find myself now, as I'm chasing some other dreams, trying to apply that same kind of mantra as I go after those too.
Now, you're talking about other dreams, and even when you were in law school, did you have someone that you could look towards as an example? I mean, aside from Claire Huxtable, as amazing as she is, in real world, did you have someone you could look to kind of follow and guide you as a role model, if you will, for law school or any of these other dreams you're talking about?
I did. And as it turned out, it was a good friend of mine who I knew from undergrad. She was in law school. She was 2 years ahead of me. So in my first year, she was in her third year. But in my senior year of college, as I was applying to law school, she was in it. So I saw her through her entire law school process. And then as I was beginning, she was finishing. So I saw the work that went into getting through law school. I saw the time and effort, but also I had someone to answer these questions about things you have no idea about. Things like in your first year of law school, you're approached by these representatives from different companies that offer bar exam review services for thousands of dollars. And you're like, well, who should I sign up with? What should I do? These simple questions that can cause concern for people or distractions. I had someone to answer those things for me and to help me through the process. And it was tremendous. I owe a lot to her. Her name is Leslie Lobos. And so shout out to Leslie for all the help that she gave me.
And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how you give back in the same way, because when myself and my sister, Jamie, considered law school, I remember we had conversations about that, what that was like and what you went through. And, you shared materials as well, because we went to the same school and stuff. So, kudos to you. Thank you for what you did for us. Do you still find people ask you about law school or give back in that similar kind of way?
I do, sort of. So, as you get older, you're around a little bit different population of folks. I'm a part of an organization. It's the American Association for Justice. It's a bunch of trial lawyers, but within that group, there's a minority caucus of fellow minority attorneys that practice civil law and believe in access to the courts. And I'm on the executive committee there, and we have this community service component, which we're speaking to different students, whether they're high school or college students, on several times a year. And so in doing so, sure, am I advising people and telling them the path towards law school or what you need to do? Absolutely. What I find myself doing now more is, so I've been practicing now, and it sounds crazy, 10 years now. So I'm distinctly I'm not a newbie, but I still have a lot to learn, of course. But I find myself talking to and advising and working with and sharing my experience with people that are first and second and third year lawyers. Folks that are trying to figure out, I'm an associate at a firm, or I'm looking for a job. How do I go about it? So I find myself working with folks like that as well. And I don't have the magic 8 ball to tell them, here's the only way to do it. It's, here was my experience. Here's how I shaped it. Here's how things went for me. And so I offer what I can, and maybe they take my advice. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they carve their own path.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can only bring them to water. You can't make them drink.
Yeah. The thing is, for some people, I feel like maybe being a lawyer or what they do as a profession is their dream. But not everybody, right? Some people are a lawyer, or they're a doctor, or internet, whatever it is that they're doing, and that's how they're paying their bills. That's how they're providing for their family. That's what they do during the day. But they're chasing another dream, or other things at the same time. So I don't always presume that being a lawyer is everyone's end-all be-all, and so I kind of let them come to me for advice. Sometimes I don't presume or assume that everyone wants to be the biggest, baddest lawyer in all of the world ever. So
that's the thing with a lot of things. A lot of people make assumptions that this is their first choice, and it's not necessarily the case. But for you, the way you're going about it is a wonderful thing, because you're also a role model. And one of the things I think I've been talking about recently has been representation. And so you're actually in the practice of law that isn't as, I guess, commonly seen on TV or people are aware of, right? Because the first thing when people think about lawyers is criminal law and order, right? That common thing that people jump to. But you don't do that. You do a different type of law. Can you talk a little bit about that and what it's like?
I do, right. So, when you talk about representation, so being a minority lawyer, there's already, in any law school class, there's a pretty small percentage of minorities, and that's at pretty much all the different law schools across the country. And then there's primarily, for ease of reference, two different types of law. There's criminal law, which deals with traffic all the way up to murder, right? So you've committed a crime and you need a lawyer, or a crime, you've been accused of committing a crime, I should say, and you need a lawyer. And then there's the rest, civil law. And that could be anything from a business dispute, a contract dispute, family law, so that's divorces, domestic violence, restraining orders. So there's all sorts of other things. And so what I practice more specifically is medical malpractice. And so I'm representing people that saw a doctor, trusted a doctor, and something went wrong. And not just a bad outcome, but that thinking about it differently, and had they been trained appropriately or done the right thing, it could have been avoided, an injury could have been avoided. So what I've seen, though, is that, there already aren't very many minority attorneys, but that it seems like a good number of them, or a majority of them, go into criminal law. And for those that go into civil law, they're oftentimes maybe doing personal injury or smaller matters, and not necessarily handling some of the more complex matters like pharmaceutical litigation or medical malpractice. And so it seems to be a very small number of minority attorneys that are handling that sort of subspecialty of lawyering. And so sort of compound it one more step is there are very few who are young. There are some certainly who have paved the way for us, but the number of young attorneys that are entering this field, that there just aren't the numbers that we'd like to see, unfortunately. So that's something definitely I'm working on, and the organizations that I'm a part of are watching and doing all that we can to promote people to, in your case, as I say, in your phrase, chase their dream, but that is step into the light and represent other people who can't speak for themselves.
Now, you actually are doing that in that niche of medical malpractice. Was that an easy decision to make, to go that direction? Did you have a reason for going that direction?
Sure. So, we talked earlier about, our days at UMBC and being a science major. And so in many respects, you kind of, you do what you know. So I grew up, my mom is a physical therapist. She's now retiring, but was a physical therapist. And so you often work where your parents work. And so as a kid, my teenage jobs were at a nursing home. So I had that kind of medical care background as it is, and familiarity, plus a science background. And it came time during my second year of law school that I needed a job. And one of the job listings was for a smallish firm down in Annapolis in Maryland. And it was for a firm that did medical malpractice. And, during the interview, I mentioned that, I'm familiar and comfortable with science and reading studies. And, I'm familiar with the healthcare environment. And so it seemed like if you're going to pick a thing, it seemed like a pretty natural fit for me. Started doing, you don't know at that point, you don't know if you're going to like it. And I started and really liked it. And so after law school, I clerked for a year for a judge on Maryland's Court of Appeals. That's like Maryland's highest court. And then it came time, that's a year-long position. And so it came time again for how to find a job. You can't graduate from law school, pass the bar, and not have a job. So I went to looking, and again, I reached out actually to, here's a funny story for you about how things work out. During law school, there was an evening program where senior attorneys came and spoke to students. And there's a female attorney who was very experienced, probably 20 years plus of experience, who talked to us. And after the talk, I went up to her and introduced myself. You talk about obstacles. I swallowed my feeling of wanting to be shy and went up and stuck my hand out, smiled, and said, "Hi, I'm Jason Penn. Thank you so much for coming. I don't recall the details." I said, "Oh, that's great." And she spoke to me briefly, and that's all. And then in follow-up, I sent her a letter and just said, "Hey, it was fantastic meeting you. Thank you so much for coming. I really benefited from your insight," or something like that. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask for a job. I didn't ask for $1, nothing like that. Just thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it, blah, blah, blah.
Through email or like a literal letter?
I wrote a letter. I believe in writing letters. I know how many emails I get in a day, how many emails, text messages, Facebook. I mean, we're inundated with just electronic communication. And now this was more than 10 years ago, so it was a little bit less, but still, nonetheless, I mean, honestly, we get so much of it. But now when I open the mail at work or at home, we get so few pieces of mail that aren't bills or junk. You remember those cards.
That's true.
And so even to this day, I keep a stack of stationery in my desk, and I'll drop a letter or a card to somebody to say thank you. Just a handwritten deal, look up their address. It takes all of 2 minutes. It's a minute more than the email you were going to send, and I think it is a personal touch. But at any rate, so I'm applying for jobs. I'm in my clerkship. I'm applying for jobs, and I get an interview at this place, and I really wanted to work there. And it's one of these deals where you interview with several different partners. And the third partner that I interviewed with, lo and behold, was the same woman who I sent that letter to. And she said, I saw your resume, and said, now that I see your face, she said, I absolutely remember you. And I remember a year and a half ago when you dropped me that letter. Thank you so much. And as it turns out, I ended up getting the job. I don't know if it was simply because of that experience or because of the letter, but that kind of thing, that it was a letter that you fired off. It took me all of 5 minutes. She remembered it more than a year and a half later, and it was the very person I was interviewing with.
That's such a crazy story.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it also goes to show you the power of something so simple, and how you never know what impact it has on someone, but then to come find out you do. And it's like, well, that wasn't actually too much, but the benefit was amazing then, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, for you and for your listeners, I have found, it's a million little things. And, it's the thing where, say, characters when you think no one's watching. It's those little things that they're taking the time to drop that quick letter to say thank you. It goes a long way. And there are people who, another example of, again, I'm thinking about those same thank you cards in my desk. I keep next to those thank you cards in my desk. Every year I go and buy a couple of Starbucks gift cards, $5, $10, whatever they are. And if I have someone who I manage or who I'm working with, and they go the extra mile for me, they'll come in the next day and they'll have a thank you card from me with a $10 Starbucks card inside of it that just says, next cup of coffee is on me. Enjoy. Thank you so much for your hard work. And over the years, I've gotten more compliments and thoughtful remarks from people who have worked with me on projects and stuff about those small things. People inherently want to work hard and do a good job, and acknowledging that with the small things, I feel really goes a long way. So in my dream chase, that's certainly something that piece of advice on doing that was passed on to me. And so now I'm sort of sharing it with the world.
And I like that you shared it, because actually another guest on the show, Brian Milliken, said something similar in the sense that, people want to work with people who are nice, people who are kind to one another. Nobody wants to work with people who are backstabbers or mean-spirited, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that, the two stories you shared are very simple examples, don't take a lot of time, but the impact it has, I think, is very profound. So imagine if you do it for a number of people.
Yeah, it's also how you want to conduct yourself and what you believe in. I'm the person who says, if I can put that goodwill out there in the world, so maybe that person feels inspired to have a good day, and they can pass that on to somebody else. It's.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if that works or not. I don't know if it's working, but I'll try it. When I think about it, I try it. I'm not to suggest I'm a saint or that I don't have bad days, but I at least try to incorporate some of that into my life.
Sure. And he's also not saying that if you get a gift card from him, he's just, randomly doing it. He literally sincerely means it.
Yeah, that's right.
now we've shared that with the world. When you mentioned some other dreams you had, right? That you are now also chasing in addition to what you do on a daily basis. How do you find time to do those dreams? And you don't have to mention them in particular if you don't want to, but just, family life balance. You have a wife, a son, a family, plus this work. And maybe it's different for you, but to my knowledge, people who work for a law firm, from what I heard, they work like 60-hour weeks?
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably a trite saying, but it's something I really believe in, which is you make time for what you want to make time for. And so, I have a garden, a vegetable garden. It's not a big deal. It's not a whole lot of square feet, but, tomatoes and cucumbers and fresh veggies and stuff like that. And people will ask me, how do you have time for a garden? You work a lot, you travel, or you have kids or anything like that. And the thing is, if you want to do it, you'll have time for it. So we see that all the time with people who train for a marathon. We see that all the time for people who start their own business. We see that for people who work but then maybe start a podcast that's on iTunes, right? So they carve out the time, they prioritize what's important to them, and they make the time. You just have to decide. I think Will Smith talks about just deciding to do it. You just decide. And so whatever it is, with the next dream, the next thing, the next hobby I want to chase or pursue, you decide that that's what you're going to do. And you'll find that maybe you don't have quite as much time for TV like you thought. Maybe you're spending a little bit less time on Facebook like you thought. There's all these hours. Maybe you get an hour less sleep a day, but you're doing it. So you have to make the decision that you want to pursue it and that you're serious about it, and everything will fall into place from there.
Which is great advice, and very... It's funny how the best advice is the most simple when you boil it down, right? I mean, the things and experiences you've done, and you went ahead and just did it. Somebody talked to you about law school, and you just did it. And now you have these other dreams, and you're just doing it. Did you feel prepared to do these other dreams when you decided, I'm just going to do it? Did you have everything you needed to pursue that? Or did you have to kind of figure out how pick up other skills? Was there an overlap amongst the dreams?
No, there's literally no overlap. The skill set that's required is the same, but people will say to you, if you wait till you're ready to have kids, you'll never have them. And the sentiment that they're expressing is you're never fully ready. If you come to whatever task or thing you want to try out, or if you want to run for a marathon, if you could run the marathon right now, what's the point? So much of it is the adventure and the chase and whatnot. And so, interesting thought. So I really have a passion for fishing, and thought to myself, how can I take what I know and what I love and do something different? So I'm considering, and again, I'm doing all the research and thinking it through. And so I'm sharing with you all in this sort of infant stage of getting my captain's license, what that looks like, and starting a charter business, taking other people out for sightseeing and for fishing, and what's involved there, and how do I do it. It's a lifelong passion of mine, so it's not something I have to get off the ground tomorrow. It's not something I'm going to be relying on income for, but there are steps I have to take and research I have to do, and so I'm in the process of doing that. I don't want my job to define me. I want to do other things that I'm passionate about as well, and that's one of them. So, no, am I prepared? Is it a same skill set? No, not at all, right? Well,
it's kind of like apples and oranges.
It's apples and oranges in that way. But I'm ultimately, as a lawyer, in a customer service business. I try to provide a service to people and represent them well. Same thing with the fishing business. You provide a service and entertainment value to people and serve them well. It's got to be something you like, and I don't think I'll ever get bored with fishing. There's never a bad day of fishing. It's not always catching. It's just being out there. So that's another dream I'm pursuing as well. And the same amount of, sleepless nights sometimes, early mornings, figuring things out, missteps, saying, oh, that's not the way to do it. I thought I could just start a business and go for it. As it turns out, you can't. So no, they're the same things that you find out. Some things go well, some things don't go well. You plan. Apparently, I need a better business plan and a model. There's all sorts of things that go into it, and you're feeling your way out. And I'll tell you, Aimee, I feel like if you wait until you're all ready, or until your child's out of the house, or you've got all the money saved up, or whatever that is that you want to do, if you wait till that, you'll wait forever.
Do you mean like waiting for the perfect circumstances where everything's lined up neatly?
Yeah.
Also,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's ain't going to happen. I mean, I haven't seen that happen. Everything's not going to be perfect. And so if it's something you want to do, go ahead and do it. It's get busy living or get busy dying. And we see all these sad circumstances of life that's not lived. And so, I feel like you got to get out and live it.
And I completely agree. And I'm going to ask a question which you may not have the answer to, but I'm curious as to what your thought process would be for it as someone who's chasing multiple dreams. Do you ever feel that, given that you're doing the research currently for this one dream and you're currently living the other, do you feel that you have to pick one over the other, or can you have both? Once you've done the research and you've discovered one, is that something you're willing to do, or like, what do you do when you have multiple dreams?
Yeah, pursue them all passionately. I mean, that's it. There's no. I really think that many people, myself included, at times, we undersell ourselves. We say, "Oh, the time's not right. It's too much on my plate, too much to handle, this, that, and the other." As if it is too much, you might find yourself scaling the dream back or redefining it a little bit. It might not be that I land a fishing show contract with ESPN. It might be that I have my own YouTube channel. You reshape and redefine things. And so if you wait the time for, I'm going to accomplish this goal and then the next one and the next one, you're going to miss them. So while I'm living a dream in the sense that I've pursued a career in the law and that's going well, I'm not where I want to be with that dream. I have other accomplishments that I want to achieve as well. So if I ever wait for that to be done, I'll wait forever. Same thing with this next dream and the next one, being a father. There's all sorts of things that if you wait for them, you'll just be waiting. So you got to get out there and try them and define the goals and define the dreams. And so one of the things, an exercise I recently picked up, they say, look, Sunday night, you start thinking about what is Monday going to look like for you. So Sunday night or Monday morning, you take a piece of paper, you take 5 minutes and you jot down your dreams. Jot down your goals and things you want to get accomplished. You don't spend more than 5 minutes on it. You write as much as you can. You jot it down. And that way they're on the forefront of your mind all the time. You start your week off and you go get it and you live your life accordingly. There's a comedian who says you've got to act like someone else has your lunch money in their pocket. And so you have to get out there during that day and pursue. So, yeah, I think if you're just solely chasing one thing, you're probably missing the boat.
That's actually, I see what you did there. That was cute with the boat thing.
Yeah.
That was really good. Did you always have that mindset about the whole pursue everything passionately? Or did that come later?
No, that definitely later. And no, I wouldn't say that I was not a serious fellow at 18 or 20 years old. I mean, you're kind of getting out from under your parents, you're going to school, trying to put this thing together. And over time, as you wake up and realize, I'm the age of what I consider to be a real adult. I oftentimes still feel like a kid, but I have responsibilities and I'm older now. Man, this is the prime health time. This is the time to get out and do it. And so, no, I don't know that I knew that then. And I'll be completely candid with you, Aimee. Mm-hmm. Preparing for this podcast and knowing I was going to chat with you made me sit down and think about my dreams and goals again. So I can't say that I walk around every single day so purpose-driven, so focused on all of my goals and nothing will stand in my way. Heck no, I find myself on Facebook too. I'm messing around on YouTube also. I'm distracted the same. So no, the overall perspective came over time. And do I lose my way or lose my sight, or do I not remain focused all the time? No, I don't. I'm human, Yeah, I don't know the flip side of it, because I don't know that someone who's so purpose driven, who's only focused on their goals, that's all they do. Sometimes they're not always a whole bunch of fun to be around either.
Yes. Say that again. Yes.
It's like, that's great, man. You're a motivational speaker. You're like Tony Robbins. I mean, you're amazing. You're doing it, and that's great. But man, ease up. Can we talk about the Ravens?
Can we? We are allowed to, right? I mean, is there a bubble that says we can? Is there a sign?
Yeah, man. Take a chill pill. So that's my goal. That's how I approach it overall. Am I living my life that every single day? Of course not, Aimee. Of course not. But I think that you got to have a little bit of fun along the way too. And laughing, belly laughing is good for you. So I got to try to find time to do a whole bunch of that too.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more because recently I had a conversation with a friend who, dream chaser, go-getter, very focused on what they're doing. And so I'm really glad you said what you said because, he found himself overwhelmed with life and the fact that he was, so focused on chasing his dream that, stressed himself out. And it's a lesson to everyone. You got to have fun with the work.
Yeah. Aimee, I really need to take my own advice on that. Lest anyone be confused, there are many days where the experience feels entirely overwhelming. You're trying to do your best in so many different regards. You're trying to just get things together and pursue your dreams. But man, it seems like one thing after another. And so it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not. And, I don't remember. I think it was a few weeks ago. A friend was talking to me. She's like, I mean, don't you get tired? And yeah, absolutely. I get tired of the things I do. Sometimes I think about the fact that if I wasn't working on the podcast or the summit or, whatever else I'm doing, I could probably be chilling and going to a concert or to the movies or just, not stressing over work. But like you said earlier, and that's the thing about this conversation we've had, there's been a lot of advice that if you, look at it by itself is conflicting, but they all have to go together. Focus on what you're doing, pursue everything with a passion, but you also have to have that time for yourself.
Yeah, but Aimee, let me ask you this. I mean, as we're in this conversation, why can't we have both? I find myself I ask myself that question a lot, so I'll ask you. You're doing your podcast.
Yeah.
Why can't you go to the concert? Why can't you have both things?
I think you can. I think it's a matter of being better. You know how you were saying you have to take your own advice? I think I do as well. And I think it comes to being better at planning. You were talking earlier about how, just do it. It's easy to say this stuff and it's very hard to implement. And it's very easy to talk the theory. We can have both. We just have to do it so that we can have both. If that makes sense.
It does. No, it does. It does. I think it makes a ton of sense. Look, sitting here talking about in the abstract and talking about historical accomplishments and things that you have done and how you got there. Sure, it's easy to say, just do it. It's a little daunting when that task is undone and you have to do it and you have other competing interests and other things competing for your time. And so, it's certainly not easy. I agree with you. And it is tough when you look up and say, man, that the Orioles season is over and I went to 2 games this year.
Yeah. So Penn and I are O's fans and Ravens fans, of course. And I know exactly what you mean. Cause there are weeks where I do take the advice and I am fine. And then there are days when I'm so focused, I don't see the forest for the trees. And so I think it's a constant reminder that we have to do these things. And that's why these conversations are important, that you have friends in your life that remind you of that. Whoever you're around, Penn, if you have a business partner or friends who are like, hey, can we go to the game? You need a break. You need that in your life.
Yeah. I mean, what they say, you're the average of the 5 people around you that are around you the most or something like that. So having those balanced people. And I was thinking about some of the people that I know you've had, Sabrina Johnson-Turner on the podcast previously. And so people who offer that different perspective, I look up and I'm traveling for work, and her passion, and I know y'all talked about this, is her travel, right? So I don't know her episode number, but I encourage, obviously, the listeners to go out and listen to it. But that's someone who also is a lawyer, but is living is chasing a different dream as well as being this extremely well-traveled person, and that's informed her perspective and people and who she is. And so I keep her around me and my circle of friends to remind me, well, for lots of reasons, but one of them is she reminds me of the importance of getting out and seeing the world and letting maybe what you do doesn't always define who you are. That's something I've learned from her, and I know the talk that y'all had was great, and so I encourage people to go and listen to it. But I can tell you firsthand, having her in my life has shaped who I am.
And guys, she's episode 40, and Penn's right. She's still traveling. She's still doing what she loves. And Penn, to your question earlier about why can't we have it? I think as long as you, at the end of the day, if you can say, I have no regrets about what I've done today, for me, that's what's important, you know?
Yeah. Well, do you have days like that where you have zero regrets?
Yeah. Like, and usually, you know, when I take off from all my work, like I won't come home and, you know, sit down and start recording or editing or blog posts or X, Y, Z. I literally just veg. And at the end of the day, as long as I can say, you know what, that's okay. I earned that. That's fine. I've had those days, you know, they're rare, but I have it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. No, I live, what do they say, learning to live with regrets. I mean, I frequently find myself saying in these instances in which I don't take my own advice, like, you know, did I wake up this morning at 5:30 and go for a run? No, I didn't. So now here it is getting late in the evening and I'm thinking to myself, man, I really wish I had just gotten up and just done it. You know, just get up and do the run, do the work. I didn't. And so sometimes I find myself with those regrets of things that you know, you don't do and the things undone. They drive me, of course, to do more, but I definitely find myself regretting some of those things.
Now, as long as the next day when that same thing happens, you remember that regret, the question is, will you have the same outcome or not?
I know. I'd love to tell you that I wake up the next morning when the alarm goes off and say, I didn't get it in yesterday, but I'm definitely going now.
Right. We're human.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
We're human. I think the other thing, Penn, though, is if you continue to beat yourself up about those regrets because they've lined up, let's say you've done that to yourself 3 or 4 times, you got to be careful because you could fall into that trap of, well, you know, what's the point at this? You know, let's let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a balance between, you know, sort of beating yourself up, but also being honest with yourself and touching base and keeping score, sort of giving yourself a report card on how you're doing in different areas. And so, you know, every once in a while you got to touch base with yourself and say, how am I doing on whether it's goals or health or fitness or wellness or whatever it is that you've got going on, how am I doing? Give yourself a grade. And then try to improve upon that.
Totally agree. And as we wrap up, when those people are chasing their dream and you are chasing multiple ones, based on that and your experiences, what is something you would tell another person chasing their dream?
Sure. I mean, it's sort of, I'm into the simple advice, Aimee, to be honest with you, and know what your dream is. Define it for yourself. You know, don't let your parents define it, your significant other, your friends. Define for yourself whatever that dream is, no matter how silly or how big or improbable it is, and go and do it. There's never going to be a perfect time. There's no right time. There's no excellent thing. Get out there, take the steps, and do it. You've got a supercomputer in your pocket in the form of a phone that allows you to reach out to other people who have probably pursued a similar dream. You can research it from that same device, let alone you get to a laptop. You've got a supercomputer in front of you as well that'll give you all the information and connections that you need. And so there really aren't a whole bunch of excuses for not giving it a try. You know, there will be missteps and course corrections all the time. But
and that's okay.
It's to be not only is it okay, it's to be expected.
Yep.
It's when you don't course correct and you continue to do the wrong thing continuously. So it's sometimes you have to find yourself course correcting and evaluating what did and didn't work, and you keep pursuing it. So I know that's simple. I know that's not profound. That's not a book. It's not a song or a quote or anything so that someone can latch onto and say, the answer is within this book. It's not. The answer is getting out there and trying it and doing it, putting it into practice.
And with that, guys, I'm going to let you go and do it. Penn, thank you so much for joining the show. Loved our chat and all the advice, because it was more than just one guy. So you might have to keep listening or check out the show notes page to make sure you caught everything, because there was a lot in here. And I know you didn't think you could do all that, but you did an amazing job, by the way.
Thank you. There'll be a part 2, Aimee. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll make that happen. When he's free from chasing the dream, I'll put the request out there. We'll see when he gets back to me.
That's right. We have to let it marinate like fine wine. Thank you, Aimee.
You're awesome, man. Thank you so much. And dreamers, that was my friend Jason Penn. Awesome guy. Penn is fantastic. He's always kept things real. He's always been great for advice. And just, he's right. He keeps things simple. And, while this show is not sponsored by Nike, the advice still stands. Just do it, like he said. Okay? And listen to the episode again. Check out check out the show notes page for this episode, because Penn shared a lot of great words of wisdom that you should remember. And also because sometimes you need to keep track of all of them, right? Each one by itself is a great piece of wisdom and advice, but together is what will help you in your dream chase, right? And also for your well-being, because sometimes you're so focused and you stress out. It's not a good thing. So keep everything in mind of what we shared today, and not just each piece in its own little vacuum, okay? You guys can find all the notes and the things we talked about today on the show notes page over at chasingdreamshq.com/episode 67. That's episode 67. Till next time, Dream Chasers, keep chasing.
Thank you so much for listening to Chasing Dreams. Aimee would love to connect with you and hear all about your pursuit of chasing your dreams. Connect with her on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram via @ChasingDreamsHQ, or you can find Aimee on Twitter @AimeeJ21. That's AIMEEJ21. Be sure to visit headquarters over at ChasingDreamsHQ.com for more inspiration, motivation, and resources to help with your own dream chase. We hope you'll join Aimee next week, and until then, keep chasing.